Our PCA is actually no longer projected to increase. But we are projecting a 4.5% rate increase in electric, 7.5% rate increase in the water system with a tiered usage adjustment, an 8.5% rate increase in your wastewater rates. We did discuss depreciation at our previous utility workshop.
Dallas, the PCA increase due to the higher wholesale costs, you said they were renegotiated? I just want to confirm that wasn't supposed to be decreased, but
It'll actually stay about flat this
Okay.
year, so we're not projecting an increase in the PCA for next year.
or not?
Correct.
Okay.
We're projecting it to be flat now.
Okay.
Yep. So I had updated the slide, but I guess I didn't get the correct slides up here. On depreciation, as we discussed with the commission, your depreciation expenses are vastly outpacing your ability to raise your rates. It is currently the commission's policy to fully fund your depreciation. At your first utility workshop, we discussed how that is going to become a problem going forward. For example, the wastewater treatment plant, once it comes online, will increase your depreciation for wastewater by about $2 million a year in and of itself. As a point of reference, your entire wastewater department budget is about $2 million. So we'd have to nearly double your wastewater rates to fully fund that depreciation. The commission gave us a head nod at that workshop for staff to go back and look at some different options, some different policies the commission could adopt. So we will do that sometime between now and your next budget cycle in 2027. Your depreciation is fully funded in your 2026 proposed budget. We'll discuss personnel expenses and your capital improvement program. And then one thing before we get too far into it, I do want to let Commissioner Clark know that after our workshop last week, Rance and I got together and we found that we can rent a street sweeper for a few $100s a day. So we have budgeted to rent a street sweeper a couple times a year next year to take care of those streets for you.
Awesome. That's great. Utilities.
About 14,000. So I think that's the future plan. Just immediately this year, we can rent one that we can address it,
Let's
then
do
we'll.
that, but let's surely look.
Yeah, we can rent it for a few $100s. So
I think
it
we're
made
going to
more
be
sense
bringing
us
to you guys a proposal to see if we can't figure out maybe how we can do some chip sealing ourselves or something like that. So let's have that bigger conversation before we jump into it.
In your general fund, your proposed 2026 budget is just shy of $14 million, whereas your proposed, your current FY 2025 budget is $12.5 million. That's primarily driven by your increase in ad valorem tax revenue. You have new solid waste rates that go into effect on October 1st, building permit activity, the fire assessment increase, and grant revenue. On the expenditure side, your expenses in your general fund are just shy of $14 million, whereas the current year, they are $13.2 million. There's actually an error there. Your current year budget's $740,000 expenses over revenues, primarily driven from the commission voting to spend reserves for some capital projects. In your expense increases, primarily driven by the increase in the CRA. As the commission's aware, when the valuation of the CRA increases, that money comes into your general fund and is transferred out to your CRA. Conversely, for the solid waste rates, your solid waste rates to your hauler are increasing, which is why your rates are increasing. The fire union wage increase is going into effect again. We have employee wage increases, some long-term employee retirement payouts, some new positions funded in the budget, and then the grant expenditures that go with those grant revenues. And we do include a $30,000 contingency in your general fund. All in all, it's a little bit over $100,000. They're on a step system. I believe, is it 2.5% or 5% between each step?
Years of service.
It's negotiated in their step system, so each firefighter is moving up a step. Overall, their current personnel budget's about $2.1 million. It's going up about $100,000, so 5%-ish. That also includes the fringe that goes along with it.
Mr. Mayor, that union contract's already been negotiated, and there's one more year on that. we'll enter into negotiations again this year for another 3-year period, is a 3-year standard period.
Yes.
So,
As a reminder for the commission, your millage rate has remained fairly steady over the last decade. You've slowly decreased it the last several years from 5.9999 to the proposed 5.88. As well, the commission's aware that our taxable values continue to increase. This year, we're just shy of 900 million, about $80 million increase over last year's taxable values. So as I just mentioned, your taxable value for 2025 is just shy of 900 million. That's up from last year's taxable value of 820 million, or an 8% increase. Your rollback rate is 5.6995, again adjusted from your current rate of 5.9. You did adopt a cap at 6.0623 mils. So if you were to increase your millage, you could increase it up to that point without having to renotice, and that would generate you up to another $153,000 in additional revenue. As a millage rate comparison, again, the city has one of the lower millage rates in our area. I was asked if I could tell you which cities I know for sure are raising their millage. So far, the only city that has voted to raise its millage is the city of Gainesville. The other cities have all proposed a millage rate increase, just like you have, but I'm not aware of which other cities may be implementing a millage rate increase. That's not true. The city of Archer is implementing a millage rate increase. They're going to the max millage of 10 mils. Correct. No, the county is decreasing theirs. I think this is the 8th year in a row they've decreased their millage.
their decrease is commensurate with ours.
On personnel across the entire city, we had our Florida retirement system increases, fairly minimal impact to the city. We were able to negotiate a really good health insurance renewal this year at 3%, down from the initial 12%, 11.5% that they initially came at us with. As I mentioned, we have this fire union step-in for the collective bargaining agreement. In terms of compensation, we're proposing an up to 4% merit tied to employee performance evaluations, as well as a cost of living increase of 2% for all employees. As we do every year, we'll look at the market, see if there's any positions that need to be reclassified or readjusted based off of what the market's paying those positions. In terms of our long-term staffing plan, we have a couple new positions that we're adding. I'll discuss those now. So citywide, we're proposing to add 7 new positions. The first is a facilities inmate supervisor. That's to replace an inmate supervisor we had a number of years ago that was eliminated during COVID to help the facilities department maintain facilities and grounds. We have an assistant director of community development in our community development department, an HR technician, a plans examiner, staff assistant in the utilities department, the director of public works and utilities, and a wastewater operator. On the plans examiner and the staff assistant, those positions are both being proposed in order to lessen the load in the work occurring in our utility department, so both Jamie and Rance can focus on the wastewater treatment plant project and the other big projects that are coming this year, including the twin pairs and some other items. An HR technician is a lower level HR employee who will help our HR department process paperwork, move things through the process, answer phone calls, those sorts of things.
Some of that is going to be paid for by our relationship with the NCS. The NCS Newberry Community School. So some of that's going to be absorbed.
Yeah, we only have one HR person and parts of HR that I do currently. So we are kind of at the tipping point where we need to look at another HR person, but with the addition of us becoming the payroll processor for the NCS and adding close to another 100 positions, our HR department's going to need some additional help. We've had, well, with the NCS position agreement, you're about to add 80 employees. But without the
again,
NCS, we're at.
That was the relationship that we already voted on and agreed to, and they're paying. I just want to make sure you caught that part of it. So they're paying for, in that relationship, So we're going to get a benefit here. They're going to be the primary payers of it, but it shows up as a new position for us. So I want to make sure everybody hears that first part of what I said.
They're
They're
paying,
paying.
they're paying us for the services.
They're,
Director of Community Development. You know, we have all-
planning and zoning.
We keep adding all these employees.
The complexity of our planning department continues to increase. So as we get Publixes, as we get GrowMax, as we get big box applications, those kinds of things. So in order to keep up with the service demand of the commercial and residential that we're seeing, we need to be commensurate with that growth rate. So I understand the commissioner's comments and concerns, but Newberry's never experienced the growth like we're experiencing now. And we're falling behind on keeping up with those departments. So that's where that's coming from. So if we don't see big boxes and we don't see the commercials that we're seeing, then we may come back to you when that stops and say, we don't need these positions anymore. But right now, if the commission wants us to be able to continue the turnaround time that we are hitting right now, this is the staffing that we need to be able to maintain that service level.
And Director of Public Works and Utilities.
Jamie was reclassified out of that position to be solely the assistant city manager. So therefore, it created a new position with which Rance took as the director of Public Works and Utilities, and then there'll be an assistant director that's currently being advertised. So
But Jamie now oversees the planning department, building department, public works department, utility department, right, as an assistant city manager. So Rance and Stacy directly report to Jamie as assistant city manager. That's all happened in the reorg that we announced a few meetings back, somewhere in there.
All right, in your operating budgets, not much to report, mostly the same old few increases here and there. As a reminder to the commission, like we talk about all the time, we continue to see increases in pricing, goods and services, driving up our contract prices. Depending on the day, whether or not tariffs exist or do not exist, we're getting hit with tariff charges. But we are seeing price increases just across the board. So moving into your fund specifics and your governmental funds, this is a breakdown of your general fund. As I mentioned this year, your general fund budget is just shy of $14 million, up from $13.2 million. In your current year, that does include the $500,000 grant from the state for the fire training facility. So when you look at public safety and you see a large jump there, that does include that grant. John?
No.
Yes, sir.
Safety and,
It is your is your sheriff's contract, your fire department, your building department, and your code enforcement
just
department.
one big number here.
Correct.
That's fire department and sheriff.
Building department and code enforcement department. It is.
Got to make sure that
It's by the data
building
for it.
stays up, doesn't blow away, doesn't catch fire.
$1.2 million on the sheriff,
Your fire department,
1.2 on the.
your fire department's about $3 million this year.
3.4. We got $1 million in code enforcement and seems like a lot.
The
You
fire
said there's
department's about $3
500.
million this year.
You said 500,000 is the training facility though, also?
Correct.
Grant.
Grant, that's
Yeah.
a grant, that's a grant.
Correct. The
That's-
fire
that's
department.
everything in all of those budgets, all wrapped up together, right, in one thing. That's, all this slide is to tell you if you categorize them in these state categories, these are where your numbers are going. What I would take away from that is that we are spending the bulk of our taxpayers' dollars on public safety, making sure that they are safe. I went on a exhilarating zip line today. I guarantee you that our building department, our inspections, what we collected in that process to make sure that when people go out there and they are safe is not what we put in staff time of reviewing those plans, going out and inspecting all of those kinds of things. I just had a conversation about reviewing those because some of these more complex developments, I think, are requiring an awful lot of staff time. We're having to go out and have lots of inspections, and I don't think that we are collecting enough money to compensate ourselves for what we're putting in to some of these developments.
Especially when you guys out there several times.
Exactly. And if the commission recalls, we did this a while back with permit fees when we're thinking about, how often do you have to go out for a pool versus how often do you have to go out for a porch, right? And we wanted to make sure that the building department was getting about as much, we understand that, some of this is a public service that we're providing to residents, but especially for commercial development, I think that the developer should be paying the lion's share of the time that we are spending. I think we also need to translate that over into our planning department as well, because some of these planning reviews are also, the person is getting a lot for what they're paying. We're spending a lot of time on these reviews. They're very complex, and a lot of the people that come to us like to change their minds periodically, and then we have to start over again, and we have to continue to work with them when we only charge a one flat rate. So we're going to look at that over the course of this year as well. I agree. On the commercial side, I think it should be pretty much a wash. I get residential if I'm trying to add on a deck, something like that, we want to help out, right? But on the commercial side, I think it should be a wash or help cover that residential side.
Can you speak to the fire training facility timeline or anything like that at this point?
We're currently still waiting on receiving the agreement from the state.
Okay.
Until we have the agreement, we don't know what the state's going to hold us to. We are harassing the fire marshal's office almost daily for that agreement.
That's the CFO's office as well, right?
The fire marshal is within the CFO's office.
Okay.
Recreation,
Correct.
and that's an increase.
There's nothing in particular that's driving it. Like I said, it's mostly cost increases across most of our areas, salary increases, fringe increases. Looks like it's a total of $60,000 increase. So
Gas, oil,
Yeah.
a lot of lawnmowers.
the cameras.
We'll have some of the increased inmate supervisor in there too, right? Taking care of some of
That's all
that?
in facilities,
Oh, facilities, okay,
which is in general government.
okay.
And how much is recreation bringing in?
Earlier this morning, when I looked at it, we were just shy of $300,000 this year. One thing to consider when you're looking at that is the maintenance of the parks as well as the programming. So the maintenance of the parks is about $1 million, and programming is about $800,000. Once you take out, the deficits. That doesn't make sense.
You know what you're
Commission,
hitting,
you have your microphones
what you're
on?
hitting on, Commissioner Farnsworth, is sort of the dynamic of building residential versus building commercial. When we talk, or I have said in the past, where you kind of lose money on residential because the demand of service is more than what you can recover in taxes, we can't charge enough to pay for everything from a residence. So we're kind of in that swing period where hopefully we'll have a lot more commercial coming online to offset some of these kind of upside down numbers that you're thinking. And I think it's important for the public to kind of understand that when you have a healthy balance, and we're just kind of getting to that point, and where I come from with the next 3 to 5 years where we have this buildup in some of this commercial, we have an opportunity to start recovering a little bit more than we're paying out right now. If you have a community that is just building houses, you will go underwater. There's no doubt about it, because you cannot charge enough. And you've got to have the commercial come online to offset a lot of that stuff. That's, I mean, I think that's a symptom of a healthy community,
I agree with you
right?
100%. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what
But this is exactly,
it's always, I know, but
yeah,
a $1.1 million deficit that's a huge chunk of money
sure.
for recreation for a limited amount of people. I mean, you got fire and police. I mean, that's needed. But for somebody to go play pickleball or basketball or whatever the case may be, and you're spending over $1.1 million for them to get their jollies, and I don't see where
Facilities are expensive.
that is a
Yeah.
necessary cost.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, I will say that our Parks and Rec offerings are still in the top 3 reasons that new residents choose Newberry over somewhere else. And the symbiotic relationship of our ability to build houses, and people want houses in Newberry because of our recreational offerings, and then the ability of those new houses to attract business, I think we're right in the crux, and I think Publix is a good example. Publix is there. We don't collect the taxes from Publix until next year. We have a slew of commercial that's going on the other side. It's not built yet. Even when it gets built, it's going to be another year before we start having those. So the commercial that our community development department is working through now to bring, it's all getting lined up. It's all coming, but it's not here yet. But the model works. The model that you guys have set 10 years ago that we are here, it is working. People are coming here because they like our community. They like our community for various reasons, but the rec offerings are, you can ask our Parks and Rec director, Rod. He bought a house in Avalon Woods because of its proximity to Easton. And I ask every new resident, so we take direction, whatever you guys want to do, but I will warn, like, mixing up that balance. Right now, we seem to be hitting a pretty good stride. It's working. Commercial's coming, residential is coming. We're firing on all cylinders. So
I don't mind the recreation department. I just think that the people that actually use it should be paying for it. I don't think that Mr. Clark here should be paying for somebody to play basketball.
he's a mean pickleballer. You ever played him in pickleball?
I'd like to try. I'd like to whip him one time. Yeah.
I think it's a fair point, but.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Moving on into our capital improvement program, provide the commission the last 2 workshops, the CIP printouts. Fortunately, I didn't have time to print it out for you tonight, but if you'd like it, I can email it to you, and you'll have it, of course, for your budget hearings. In your infrastructure sales surtax fund, there's no new projects budgeted for next year. We'll be continuing some of the projects that we had last year, primarily the environmental park, the power plant, and Southwest 15th construction. Those projects did drive your sales tax fund to have a deficit of about $500,000 at the end of this fiscal year. So we're not proposing any projects next year. Let that fund rebuild itself through the year. And your wild spaces and public places fund, we have a couple of large projects coming, one of which is the design of the skate park facility. We have a major redesign and construction at the Easton facility, which will involve construction of tennis courts and pickleball courts, moving the RC park, building of the multipurpose fields, and relocating of the facility's maintenance shed. You're continuing to pay yourselves back for the purchase of the land that IFAS sits on. The commission may remember the general fund loaned the Wild Spaces Fund money to make that purchase, and the Wild Spaces Fund is making that payment back. And then, of course, the commission authorized $2 million for the renovation and enhancements of Champions Park, $800,000 of which is in your current year 2025 budget. So the remainder, the 1.2, is in your budget for next year. In your impact fee funds, for your transportation impact fees, we are projected to collect $640,000 and spend $333,000. However, this year we did dip into our reserves by about $300,000. primarily for the Southwest 15th reconstruction. Those bids came in higher than anticipated. So we did dip into your fund balance and your impact fee fund there. So next year, we're spending less than we're collecting to rebuild that fund balance, but we do have a couple of projects, primarily a traffic study in partnership with the county on Newberry Lane and County Road 235, and then the city's contribution to the Highland Park traffic signal. In your public buildings fund, the only projects being funded out of your public buildings fund are your debt service on your city hall. So in the current fiscal year, you spent $100,000 of those dollars to make your debt service payment, and next year we're projecting $160,000 for that payment. That concludes your governmental funds. Moving into your utilities. As I mentioned at the first budget workshop when talking about utilities, it is a tough world out there. Every utility is facing rate increases based off of the cost of goods and services. I handed out to all the commissioners a new infographic that came out a week or two ago that shows some of the increases. This was done by the by Reuters and Wood Mackenzie, who's a large engineering firm. But as you can see on the screen, FPL requested the largest rate hike in the history of the United States. Thankfully for FPL's customers, they won like a multi-billion-dollar lawsuit recently, so they're coming down a little bit off of their rate hike, but they are still raising their rates. Yeah, someone's going to be paying that one way or another. Clay Electric announced, I believe, a 10% rate increase. That's about $14 a month for their customers. Central Florida Electric had a close to 10% rate increase, 9.7% rate increase. That's about a $10 a month increase for their customers. And then FPL's increase, when they had initially proposed it, would have been $11.50 this year, and then another $18.50 in the year after that. So I say all that to say that you're not in a unique position with your utilities facing rate increases and facing the cost of doing business. Some of the things that some of these other utilities are showing are pole mount transformers are up 262%. We buy a lot of transformers. Poles are up 80%, pad mount transformers 200%, underground cable 150%, overhead wires 121%. So the cost of doing business in our utilities is exorbitantly going up. And while these are mostly focused on electric, we're seeing those same increased pressures in your water and wastewater systems.
Mr. Mayor, before we leave that slide, Dallas, I just want to return to the comment, one of the opening comments about funding depreciation. So right now, if we fully fund depreciation at a transformer that was, how much was it 10 years ago? So a transformer 10 years ago at $5,000 to $6,000. Even if we fully did that, a transformer today is 15. So we only have a third of what we would need, even at a fully funded depreciation rate. So that's why we need some direction back on our depreciation policy. Because if we want to continue to fund depreciation at 100%, I don't know how our ratepayers can withstand that. So these current prices, the way that they've gone, I hate it because we fought hard to get this depreciation policy in, but I don't see a way out. We can take the wastewater out of it, and we can fund everything else. We can continue to fund at the rates we were funding, so at least we have something for the future. But I don't know how we absorb 219% raising prices and fully fund depreciation all at the same time. So I'm not asking for direction right now, but I just want it on your radar. This is what we're talking about when we're talking about fully funding depreciation. We've been funding it, but what cost us $5,000 10 years ago is $15,000 now. What Assistant Manager Jamie Jones just said is a lift station that was $3,200. How many? 16 years ago is now?
Well, from 2015 to today,
10 years ago is 3,200, and today is
16,000.
16,000. I mean, that's
And that depends on whether or not we get charged a tariff on it. Every now and then there's a
right.
$1,000, $1,500 tariff on top of it.
So I'm on Central Florida Electric. I'm paying that 9.7. That's
Storm is
Yeah. And a lot of these guys are, like Clay is having a 2% increase, but they're also having a storm recovery, which is about $21 a month. So, you know, I know that we were proposing a 4.5, but when I look around at what everybody else is doing, 4.5, I wish I was on Newberry Electric right now.
Well, we don't have enough money for essentials, but we got enough money for recreation.
Down to Wild Spaces.
No, 1.1 million ain't from Wild Spaces.
A lot, the capital outlay is from Wild Spaces.
Right.
Right.
We need to put our priorities, get our priorities right. We start becoming a tax and spend community, and we need to get away from that.
This is a graph, basically shows the same information for the price increases in transformers, insulators, poles, wire over the last 6 years. I stole this from Clay Electric, Central Florida Electric, that's why it's got a member bill on there. But again, just shows you the increases we're facing. The next slide that's in your PowerPoint printed for you, I don't have on the presentation up here, but it just breaks up this sheet as well for you to show some of the increases. For example, you know, trucks are 25 to 40% more expensive, insurance premiums 20%, construction labor 20 to 40% more, copper wire 50% more. So, horse dead. Electric operations. So your 2026 proposed budget is $7.4 million. That's adjusted from your current year's budget of 6.4. That primarily originally was due to your purchase power prices going up. I haven't had a chance to rerun your numbers since F&P announced the lower rates for next year. So before your next your final hearing or your first hearing in a couple weeks, I will rerun these numbers for you, and you'll see the numbers go down, particularly in your purchase power line item there. Net operating income next year is at $108,000. That includes the 4.5% increase. As a reminder to the commission, we do not have a funding mechanism to expand your electric system. With your water wastewater system, you have development fees that are used to expand and increase capacity. That function does not exist in your electric system. The only mechanism you have to raise revenue for future enhancements and expansion of your system is through your rates. So this $100,000 rate increase, or surplus of rates you see here, is going to go to pay for the debt service associated with the second feed that is going to be built coming into town. So that net operating income is all going to go into capital back into the system, primarily for that secondary feed. This actually just came out today. We fell a little bit closer back to the middle. We were, I think, 2 slots higher. We're now right in the middle in terms of electric rates compared to other municipal power agencies and the investor-owned utilities. They don't put on here the co-ops, but the co-ops would be to the right of us as well with higher rates. But as you can see, the city of Newberry is right in the middle of the pack with very competitive rates across the state. So here's the breakdown in how the rate increases will look across all your customer classes. As I mentioned, it's a 4.5% rate increase for all customer classes, including your streetlight customers, for an average net impact to a resident of $5.37 per month. Moving into water, your water fund is proposed at $1.7 million next year. Your current year's budget is $1.46 million. That's based on a 7.5% rate increase. As you can see, one of the primary drivers in increases on this one is, again, that $120,000 increase in your depreciation costs. But as I mentioned, we are fully funding depreciation. There is no new staff proposed in your water fund. Here are your rates, your proposed rates, going up 7.5% on all customer classes, with a slightly larger increase in tiers 2 and 3, meaning customers who use more water will be paying more than customers who are using the bare minimum. Your average customer will see an impact of about $4.30 per month if they use 8,000 kgal. 8 kgal. In terms of water rate peer comparisons, we're right in the middle of the pack. We're not the lowest like we used to be, but we're not exorbitantly high. City of Alachua is $2 less than us. City of Gainesville is a few dollars less. High Springs is higher. High Springs probably going to have a much higher increase this year than what I have on the chart here. But we're still in the market in terms of our utility rates with our peers. Across the state, the 2024 average for 8,000 gallons across the state was $46.32. Newberry's average in 2026, so more than 2 years later, is $40.69. So we are still lower than the state average, even 2 years later. Moving into your wastewater operations, your wastewater budget is $2.1 million, up from this year's budget of $1.9 million. One thing that you will note when I bring back the budget for your adoption hearings, it will be $80 million more than what I have on this screen. That will be because I will be having put in the wastewater treatment plant, all the grants, all the funding that's going to be coming with that. But for clarity's sake, I didn't include it here. But when it comes back to you for adoption, there'll be another line item for the wastewater treatment plant
No, it's
project.
not the, ain't gonna be the dead horse, but why are we at 80 million if we're already got our grants and we don't know, we ain't went out to bid yet for 80 million? We're just proposing 80 million?
That's with all your grant funding sources and the loan funding sources you have 80 million. So I'm going to go ahead and put it in the budget.
We
So
already have the 80 million?
we have agreements
the
for it.
debt?
That includes the debt.
That does not mean that's what it will be, but we have to plan for the worst, hope for the best. So we're putting 80 million
That's
in.
debt, everything included. though.
Yeah, that's everything. That's City of Archer, grants, everything.
Okay.
Yep. That way, when we get the contracts back, when we get the bids back, we don't have to wait to go through the whole process of amending your budget, since we want to make sure we get this project going. But that's your wastewater department. 8.5% rate increase for all customer classes. One new FTE in the wastewater department, a wastewater operator. Again, that's to get us prepared for the wastewater treatment plant to come online when we have to meet that additional staffing requirement of 16 hours a day. So your wastewater rates, again, 8.5% increase. Average residential impact is $5.91 for a customer who uses 8 kgal a month. Again, looking at your rates, you're still pretty close, $74 on average for your customers. Alachua's at 70, Gainesville's at 70, High Springs is at 96. The 2024 statewide average was $71.69. Newberry's 2026 is $74. So you're still right there, close to the average. Again, the $71 is from 2 years ago. So I'm sure if we did this rate study today, it would have increased and we would either be at or below the statewide average. So your total monthly utility increase impact across all three utilities is $15.58 for an average residential customer.
I want to pause there for a second now. So what we did, we just went over electric, water, wastewater, right? I want to go back to Commissioner Farnsworth's statement about we're becoming a taxing and spend and we don't have money for essentials, because I think that's incorrect and unfair. In the utility funds, and I think this is a tremendously important point for the commission to continue to remember, it is central that those three utility funds pay for themselves. They are essential. They need to pay for themselves. Every Newberry utility customer is a Newberry resident, but not every Newberry resident is a Newberry utility customer. So unless you want Mayor Martin and Commissioner Clark and myself to subsidize Newberry utility customers, all three of those funds need to pay for themselves. So the electric rate, the cost of poles, all those things, which is when that comment was made, all of those things you could not, if this commission said we're going to cut rec completely, we don't want rec anymore, right? It doesn't mean that you could not do the increases in the utilities unless you want the people who live in Newberry but aren't utility rate customers to subsidize to artificially deflate those numbers, right? That's the policy decision that this board made a long time ago, because a long time ago, that's exactly what we were doing. We were pulling money from the general fund over to keep utility rates artificially low. They weren't paying for themselves. Water was losing money every single year. And we finally made the point, well, wait a minute, how is that fair to Newberry residents who aren't Newberry customers? I'm paying a 9.7 increase in Central Florida Electric, which is almost the entire increase of what all three of ours already are paying. I don't think it's fair for residents that aren't utility customers to also have to support Newberry utility customers so that they can have artificially low rates. So it's same conversation we think about Wild Spaces money, right? Wild Spaces money is important to know. I think most of the folks on this dais voted against that, right? But we cannot spend it anywhere else other than recreation, right? So that's why it's in a separate budget. So when we speak and we say, well, we're spending $2 million in Champions Park, and then we try to conflate Champions Park with an electric increase, I think that confuses residents, and then they begin to think, well, that sounds right. Why are we spending $2 million and we got to go up 4.5%? Well, they're completely separate funds. It's our job to try to speak as carefully as we can so our residents understand we can't spend Wild Spaces money to keep water rates lower, right? And the reason why the electric department has to pay for itself is because the only way, if we run it in the red, then we're doing that off the backs of other Newberry residents who don't even know that we're doing it. It's the flip side of what got GRU in trouble with the transfer. They were keeping their millage rates low, our services high, because they were transferring an enormous amount of money out of GRU, right? This would be a similar situation here. So I think we are funding the essentials, absolutely. And we're funding the essentials. Again, I can't do anything but give you guys the factual data and show you what Newberry runs off of what other cities run. So if a city of Alachua is over there with 172 employees, and we're over here with 80 full-time employees, that speaks for itself, and the commission should be proud that you have run such a lean ship that other communities around us we're killing it on all of these fronts. So I want to make sure that we're keeping, that's why we have this organized into different funnels, different pots, so that we can keep it straight, so that we can keep it straight for the residents as well. That concludes my comment.
I mean, you guys do. Yeah. You guys do pay a franchise fee to the city. So there is that, but I also agree with you that you shouldn't have to supplement. But
Our
So I don't think-
own electric customers
I don't
also pay a
think
franchise fee.
Commissioner Clark should be supplementing somebody playing basketball either, so.
The basketball kid tonight with me.
Man, we got
Also, I mean, Alajua's got 170 employees, and yet their water rates are lower, their electric rates are lower, their sewer rates are lower, so. Precisely.
They also have a higher millage rate and higher utility taxes than we do.
They're not gonna have the advanced treatment facility that we're getting ready for. I mean, it's all, like, we could dig in as much or as little into any of these issues. But when you look at what Newberry's doing, I'll put Newberry up against any other community in Alachua County and outside for level of service and cost.
And I agree with you, but I also think that we could always do better.
I'll agree with that. I'll agree with that.
We can't do better.
1,000%. Yeah. Yeah.
In your development fee funds in your water and wastewater departments, for fiscal year '26, you have about $500,000 budgeted in capital projects, primarily related to your State Road 26 Twin Pairs project, as well as $160,000 in debt service. In your wastewater funds, you have $1.8 million in capital projects funded, as well as $160,000 in debt service. That $1.8 million is for Tanglewood oversizing, Lift Station 10 upgrade, the environmental park, and the gravity line extension program. That concludes my presentation, Mr. Mayor. Happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, good job, Dallas. Appreciate it. Obviously, a lot of information. You know, I feel sorry that you spend from January until now to give us about 40 slides. but we appreciate it because it also
A lot of
comes
backup
along
that
with
goes into each of these slides.
what?
There's a lot of backup that goes into each of
I hear you. It's probably a week per slide, basically. What is the pleasure of the dais? I mean, we're not making any motions, but you. If I'm being overly critical, the only thing that I saw was whether or not we need to spend $30,000 on a skate park study. That was my only.
It is Wild Spaces money.
Is it?
It is.
Wild Spaces money.
Can we spend it on something else? I have never.
No, it's the
It's the
design.
engineering
Just the
design.
design.
Say, not a study, we know.
No, it's the design.
I don't.
The skate park actually scored higher than the splash pad, and the reason, and
Really?
beyond that, in terms of what
At
people
least
want it
it's a
for.
sunk cost.
And
It's
the
not.
skate park is a sunk cost. Like, once you build it, you're done.
You
It's
think
not
so?
breaking pumps, water,
I thought skateboards were about going, evidently.
they are not. There's adults. They're adults.
So, with regard,
Yeah. Everybody's skating these things.
okay, to the skate park point, where is the proposed location for that? And is it a bowl or is it an above ground?
Right, well, that's what we'll figure out with the design. Right now, we are considering Lois Fort Park, not Lois Fort Park. In a future, we're about to have a rec
A wreck.
workshop, thank you, rec workshop, where we ask and propose all of these questions. We have made contact with USDA, and USDA has agreed to liquidate the 2 acres that is just west of, I know, she understands how hard that was. Just west of Freddie Warmack Park, so there's a 2-acre spot there. We have a larger plan as we move Public Works out of the center of town, where you first turn in, there's a huge easement there along the road. That's kind of where so we're going to pitch 2, 3, 4 ideas.
Okay.
Those are the 2 things that we're thinking of right now. Ultimately, you guys will tell us. But before we make those decisions, I'd like us to really pause and think about our recreational offerings holistically. We seem to, and I'm not faulting us, we kind of plop things down wherever it works in the moment. And I want us to think about our north, south, east, west offerings. Does every quadrant of our city, is it being treated the same in terms of expenditures, or do they have something? So I kind of want to zoom out and let you guys look at a big picture and give
Okay.
us some direction, and then we'll zoom back in on specific locations for specific things.
Any other questions? Commissioner Clark, comment?
God bless America.
All right, seeing none from the public.
I just want, will the skate park be reinsurance?
Only if you use it. As I would, can we get any feedback, thoughts about the issue of the depreciation at this point in time?
Say funded as normal.
On it, absent the wastewater plant?
That's what I'm saying. Till we-
I mean, that seems to be the
Before
elephant.
we
Yeah.
Start taking more money away from something else. I mean, we already depreciate. Let's at least leave it where it's
Saying, leave it where it's at,
depreciated.
leave the wastewater plant out of the equation. That way we've got something going for regular maintenance.
Right.
We're not having to take the whole bite
Yeah,
off.
I mean, we've got,
Yeah.
well, like you were saying, I mean, even if we fund it at 100%, in some areas, we're probably still going to be behind by 30%.
Our board. Right.
Which is,
Can't afford to pass this on.
and that's,
Yeah.
well,
So,
that's what happens when you print money.
that's right. Well, regardless of that, we might start
Money
a
print,
Newberry coin or something with
we might need to, for God's sake. Okay,
Sammy Jones coin.
if there's nothing else, we are adjourned.
Fire department looks like